The date is September 22nd, 2020, and we're long overdue. This is Bread Radio. I'm your host, Bread, aka August, whatever you want to call me, it all works. It's been a while. Before we get into the show, let's do some housekeeping. If you want to write in or have any questions, requests, suggestions, you want to get on the show, you can reach me by breadradiolive@gmail.com, or you can tweet at me at itsbreadtime. The website is breadradio.live, and you can find merch there, breadradio.live/merch. I've had a couple people purchase some things even while I've been away, so I really have appreciated that. It's been a while. It's obviously been a while. I guess we'll start the show off with addressing where I've been, why there hasn't been content out, and just generally like what's been going on in the summer. So today's cast, it'll be a bit of a shorter one. I'm thinking like maybe 20 minutes. We'll cover that as well as some content plans for the coming weeks and days, considering we've got some new consoles on the horizon. All right. So what's new? I think when we last left off, I had just been finishing The Last of Us. I wanted to go through the spoiler cast. Obviously, I think a lot of that is since the ship there has potentially sailed. I think even still, since we last spoke, or since you last listened, I think I was originally lukewarm on The Last of Us, but the more time that's passed, like, man, I really think it's just a great game. I've actually been thinking about replaying it. But anyway, let's continue on. Went on vacation with Haley up to the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. It was beautiful. The weather, it was a little hot, but it ended up making for like really nice, cool, temperate evenings. The water was amazing. It was great to hang out with Haley's family, of course, and meet some new faces as well as some that I had already met. But man, it's just been a really crazy time. I know I keep saying like, how long is this COVID thing gonna last? But ever since we rebooted the show, it's been ever present in our lives, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna be going anywhere anytime soon. Other news, I think maybe I brought this up in a past cast, but in sad news, my grandmother, Donna Jean Acker, passed away in June, and there was a lot of stuff flying around as far as arrangements go. My grandfather passed a few years ago, meaning now there was a house to deal with. So in between work from home, some inheritance stuff, working with my parents. Honestly, I can't take any credit for it. My aunt and uncle and my parents did all the heavy lifting as far as like cleaning out the house and so on and so forth. I also had a bachelor party I went to. Please hold your judgment, but we went out to Vegas for one of my buddy's birthdays. It was a great time, albeit a pretty weird time, obviously, to go. The city was just opening back up, and we're all safe and sound. No positive tests or anything. Wedding coming up as well for that bachelor party, which I'm excited for. It's been like as normal as it can be. That was like as normal as it could be, a summer event as I could have had, considering the times. So last weekend, because of COVID, was when we actually were able to have the funeral. Was over at, near Erie, Pennsylvania, in a small town. For the funeral, saw some family. And that was, considering the circumstances, it was good to see family. I just wish it was under better circumstances. So outside of that, man, I don't know, this is a show, obviously I'm burying the lead here. It's a show with video games, meaning most of the content is around video games. The subject matter obviously is video games, but maybe I think I've said this before, it's almost like my personal therapy session, like having a conversation with myself, I guess. So with that in mind, I think I've been kind of in a rut lately, truthfully. Work's been busier than ever, and honestly that's been positive. I'm feeling positive about it now. Of course, there were threats. Everyone was under threat of losing their job at the beginning of COVID, but our company has really bounced back. So and I'm busier than ever. I've had to to wear a number of hats. So my energy levels have just been low as far as creativity, creation, wanting to like working a 8-hour day with meetings back to back and sometimes going longer than 8 hours, and then trying to motivate myself to like turn on and produce this show. I'm not saying it's a burden. I genuinely do enjoy producing the show, and this is something that I hope to grow someday. But the balancing act, I don't know how some people do. Obviously, it's their jobs, right? They can do this during their 9 to 5, but for me, like trying to stay on that entire day is really difficult for me. So at the end of the show, we'll address some of that as well. More disappointing news, I guess, that also demotivated me. We were burglarized, had a birthday, had a great day. Like, we went swimming at Haley's parents' house and saw some friends. And it was a genuinely great day, but both my roommates were out of town as well. And someone accessed our house by a side window that wasn't fully latched, I guess. So that's on us. And we've since upped our security in the form of a security system, cameras. And a little bit more archaic, we actually have 2x4s jammed in all our windows so that you can't even physically open them. Like, we're not messing with the anguish again, right? But that was a whole thing. We actually, like, I had my detective hat on for several weeks. We found someone's Ring footage, their like Google Nest or Ring doorbell footage that actually showed the car that with the person in it who ended up burglarizing the house, driving by it twice and then parking. It was off in an angle, so I didn't have a description of what the person looked like, but we connected that vehicle to another crime, and the police didn't come through at all. In fact, they never even showed up at our place. So I'm not going to get on a political tangent here, but the response from the police department was incredibly disappointing, and unfortunately, part of the casualties from that burglary was my PlayStation. So my PlayStation 4, my Spider-Man PlayStation, if you're watching this on YouTube, more stuff we'll cover, by the way, my Spider-Man PS4 Pro was stolen, and I don't suspect I'll see it again. So that's exceptionally disappointing. My roommate's PlayStation was stolen. They stole our Wii. Can't even play Wii Golf anymore. And we also had a television stolen. Very, very thankfully, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see my room, which is a mess, but I'm on my computer here. They did not come upstairs, so they did not see my computer equipment or anything. So thank goodness for that, because then you really would have never seen any content from me ever again. Because my life would be over. But while all of that's been really disappointing, Haley and I are stronger than ever. Like, I think for a lot of people, the COVID has been like, people either fall apart or their relationships galvanized, and I think we're more galvanized than ever. And I'm forever appreciative for her companionship and just like everything she does for me. So hopefully we'll have her on the show sometime soon as well, just to like chit chat. We're talking about doing a podcast ourselves, like a little 15-minute thing. Like, we want to create something together. She's a really talented artist. I'd love to display some art for you guys sometime. She did. I wish I thought about it. She made a painting for me of a little trash panda with some bread, a little backwards cap, like I'm susceptible to wear, and that will be up here in my room shortly. So, on the note of missing consoles, I guess, if there was a time for my console to get stolen, I guess now is the time, because we're just a few short months away from the release of the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5. I was lucky enough to secure a pre-order for both the PS5 and the Series S. I opted for the Series S because it's a little cheaper. I can play Microsoft or Xbox Game Studios games on my PC, but I think I just prefer having a console for some of the games, like being able to just like take the smaller Xbox Series S to a friend's house or to Haley's house if I want to play Halo or something is like ideal to me. And sometimes personally I just want a game on a TV. I know some of you out there will be like, but you could plug play a PC. Yeah, I know you can plug a PC into a TV. It's just easier this way, you know, and then I don't have to account for a PC being somewhere. So hopefully if you guys are out there looking for pre-orders, and you're actively seeking it, I hope you do secure one. Again, I think we've maybe talked about pre-orders once or twice before on the cast, but I mean, early adopters are essentially beta testers for video games or beta testers for this hardware. You look at the 3080, everyone like jumping into the 3080. The hardware is going to get cheaper over time. They'll have better bundled deals. I was actually going to wait on getting an Xbox considering all of the PC capabilities, but when a pre-order falls into your lap and you're able to purchase it, like I feel like I have to, right? My wallet's not happy with me, but I felt like I had to. So anyway, let's talk about content and the brand and Bread Radio in general. I think we live in a world with, that's how you want every, we live in a world where instant gratification, we're trained more than ever now, I would argue, to respond to instant gratification, right? There's me example, me buying the Xbox Series S today, pre-ordering it rather. And when I've been a Twitch streamer since maybe about 2015, and honestly, like, it's within my character to like grind on something, get obsessed with something for a few months and then drop it. And it's something I kind of did again with this podcast. So you as a listener, I appreciate if you're a returning listener, because I know it's probably fresh. Like, it's hard to get invested in content when you can't count on it. And I think that was always like the death knell for me, for Twitch streaming. Like, actually, I think the most progress I ever made was before I moved back to Columbus, when I could dedicate a full amount of time to it. Like, I'd been laid off. I was like, screw it, I'm going to go for this. And I was making really good progress, but I didn't see it as something sustainable, and the opportunity to move back to Columbus where my friends were was too enticing. But I think something similar, like just the grind got to me, like, as far as juggling everything in my life and also producing content for a stream, and not having, like, if I was streaming and I only had a few viewers, like, it's not that I didn't appreciate the viewers that were there, but, you know, I guess it's a lesson to not look in anyone else's bowl, but you look around, other people are getting viewers, and I sit there and I agonize, what am I doing wrong? Like, how can I get people in here? Do I really have time to network all the time? And the truth is, no, I don't have the energy for it. I don't know if I ever will, but I really do want Bread Radio to become something, you know, even if it's like I've always said, this is like my small piece of the internet, my corner of the internet, and I'm glad that you're here with me. Keeping that in mind, I started shopping around the idea before I kind of went on like a short hiatus to get like a co-host on here, because truthfully, I'm at my best when I can riff with someone, when I've got like a friend there and we can tell stories together, and I think it's genuinely more interesting content. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're interested in maybe jumping on the cast sometime, maybe just dipping your toes in the water, trying out some new formats with me, I'm looking for someone. Again, you can email breadradiolive@gmail.com. Maybe there's a week you can't make it. That's fine. Maybe there's a week I can't make it because I'm out of town, for example, for a wedding. That's fine. It's just, I don't think I can't, like, with the way my life is, I can't always commit to like putting something out every Thursday. You guys already saw, like, I was putting stuff out on Saturdays sometimes. And if I'm going on a trip, it's hard for me to like carve out a couple hours to do a cast to have in the bag. Like, I don't have an entire production team. It's just me. I'm just me. And that's all I can be, right? So I know there are a lot of content creators out there that are trying to do their own thing. I think I've tried to do something with some guys in the past. We tried to do something with Grenades and Goblins, those of you who are still around from that era of our lives. which was really fun. But again, it was guys who had careers, and that sort of fizzled out. Like we're demanding, trying to build a brand while you have your own career, your own family or girlfriend or whatever it is, and develop that and still hold up the social bargain you have with your friends and family. It's nigh impossible. So maybe I'm doing a terrible job of selling this. maybe I'm dissuading anyone from writing in, but I'll probably have a little thing at the end of most of my casts in the upcoming months. Just just shopping around, seeing if anyone wants to jump in and help, because I'd like to, I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to like creating like actual cooler merch, like actually developing a website instead of like purchasing one through a third party, like actually building a framework and doing it together with someone, because that teamwork is like, I've felt this at work. Like when I'm tasked with doing something just by myself, I've struggled with motivation. But when I'm part of a team on a project, like contributing or driving the project, like I feel I'm truthfully, I'll toot my own horn. I'm a freaking rock star, man. I'm like a different monster when I'm working alongside someone. That's just how I work better, and it's how I always have. Anyway, moving on from that kind of segues into the what I want to talk about next, which is content for Bread Radio. The podcast, like I said, I mentioned a few times, like if you're watching on YouTube, I toyed with this idea before, and keeping in mind my point about instant gratification, I think it's hard to like ask people to be in a place at a certain time. Like people don't, like, we live in a streaming society, like an on-demand society, not so far as like a broadcast society. Twitch kind of goes against the grain in that manner. Like people don't really seek out live content that much anymore. Like you don't really tune in at 8 to watch Survivor, or maybe I'm in an echo chamber, but I feel like people don't do that often anymore. Maybe they're watching The Masked Singer, I don't know. But now everything is, even if it is live, it's also available on demand. So my thought is I'm going to pivot some of my efforts over to YouTube instead. We'll break up podcasts into topics, so that way you'll have smaller chunks if that's how you want to consume it. Of course, the podcast itself will always be available on your audio devices, your phones, internet browser, your podcast app of choice, if you will, your Apples, your Spotify, so on and so forth. But as far as streams go, I don't think I'm going to be able to, like, I don't think it's feasible for me to guarantee, like, one stream a week is not enough to grow a brand, and 3 or 4 days a week is too much for me to feasibly handle on my own, while still juggling the rest of the responsibilities of my life. So the podcast is going to go over to YouTube. I'm looking to possibly like put out some additional content on YouTube. For now, all I can promise is the podcast will make it over there. I don't know. Maybe Haley and I's own podcast will end up on that YouTube channel. Maybe we'll post like some cooking stuff we're doing here and there. Again, the brand is an amalgamation of just things I like, which maybe is another reason it doesn't take off, but that's what I want to do. So we'll see less streams. We'll see more stuff on YouTube. I love esports. I'm not shy about it. We've talked about it ad nauseum here on the cast. I may do some more stuff regarding esports. Specifically, I love Counter-Strike, as you guys know. We've talked about Valorant a bunch on here. May dip my toes in that esports scene. Might revisit COD someday and talk about some of that stuff as well. Things that I can kind of consume passively and generate content in that regard. That'll probably be on the YouTube channel. Up next for the podcast, what we're going to do, considering the releases of the new consoles in the next month or two, well, I guess just over a month and a half from now, we're going to have two sort of, we'll say Megacasts, probably about an hour long, just an overview of like PS5 specs, what the SKUs are, the difference between the digital and the digital and the base model, of course, launch titles, just an overview of like what are we kicking off this generation with on PlayStation, and what are we kicking this generation off with Xbox. So those are the next 2 casts ahead of us. And then we'll go back to more news topics for those of you like that like to tune in weekly just to hear the bigger news stories. For example, the Microsoft purchase of Bethesda we'll probably address on the Xbox overview. We'll actually probably address it on the PlayStation overview as well, because that purchase has implications that will ripple throughout the industry, of course. So that being said, the goal was to post a new show every Thursday. The cadence may be a little different. If you have the ability to turn on notifications on your favorite podcast app for when casts are going to go up, I'd say that's probably the best way to keep track of when new things are going live. Also follow me on Twitter at It's Bread Time. But I'm going to try and stay a little more consistent with my output. The cadence just might be different. It'll be when I have time available as opposed to like a fixed schedule. Because I find like if I try and set a fixed schedule, I don't know, it's goal setting. I don't know if you guys have this experience at all. Confirm to me, deny, or say nothing. But in my experience, if I set a goal or I tell myself I'm going to do something and then I miss that deadline, I am less likely to do that thing altogether. Like if I wake up and it's like about 11, I'm going to do laundry, and then it hits 11:30, I'm like, maybe tomorrow, you know? Instead of saying like, I'll do laundry today, and even if it's like 8 p.m. or like I'll do laundry this weekend and it's like 8 p.m. on like a Saturday, I'm like, oh, nothing's really going on. I'll jump in and do some of this laundry while I do X, Y, and Z. Like I just work better fluid like that. I could see a day in which the schedule comes back if it, you know, if my life settles down or we have like a team of folks or even just a partner here that scheduling works better with. Like, but when it comes to just me and I'm holding myself accountable, we're gonna stay fluid for now. Outside of that, I think we'll have some like spar streams here and there. Like I'm thinking of doing one today, so you can still keep an eye out on twitch.tv/breadradio. I'm playing around with the idea of doing these podcasts live again. Maybe I'll do it on YouTube too. Maybe that's easier for me. But the podcast will probably go live, as in a live recording sooner rather than later. I just need to get comfortable putting on a show like this again. Truthfully, it's just easier for me to do this not live. Like, I don't know what it is, but when I know someone could be watching, like even if Haley was sitting here in the room, like in the chair right here, like I just had a conversation with her earlier. She was going to run some errands anyway, and I was like, I'll wait to start until you go, because if anything is different, if I'm not in my comfort zone, somehow like I just get anxious. I just get put off my game. So anyway, maybe that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Maybe that doesn't inspire any hope or confidence in you as a listener, but stick with me. Hopefully, if you're here listening to this again, that means you like some of the stuff I put out or any of my opinions and all. Maybe you don't like them. Maybe you just listen to this to hate me. I don't know. It's your prerogative, man, as long as you don't come at me. It doesn't bother me much. But if you're here, hang out on Bread Radio. If you lurk, like if you listen and you just want to participate passively, that's great. If you're an active participant, that's amazing. Like that gives me some feedback that like I'm doing something right, that like my opinions and the content that I'm putting out means something to someone. And of course, like we live it's a look at me society. So if someone's looking at me, like that's great. I'm happy with it. But until next time, I'm Bread. I'm August. We're going to keep this short and sweet. We're about 25 minutes. Look out over the next week for the PS5 overview spectacular on YouTube and on your favorite podcast apps, as well as the Xbox overview over the next few weeks. I don't want to get too into the weeds today. I really do want to split up that content so we're not repeating too much. So keep an eye out there. I just thought it would be a good idea to kind of update everyone on what's going on here on the channel. So until next time, I'm your host, Bread. Be cool to one another.